Hello, my name is Ethereal, and today I'm gonna be explaining and overall giving you my deck profile of this deck that I've been working on for a bit. It is Daihouzan Magatsu premium deck. So without further introduction, I'm going to just start because this is gonna be a long video. So first of all, I'm going to start with the grade 2 because the grade 2 is in my opinion, the most straightforward one. Uh, Most straightforward grade in this clan. So first of all, I'm running for Yamishibuki, 3 Magatsu Gil, 2 Royal Nova, and 2 Ungai. Now, the reason on why the, I run little in relative to other decks, Nubatama decks, a little bit less grade twos, or some decks say even a little bit more grade twos because um, with Nubatama, you want to have grade two pressure. The grade ones, while it is good, but you still want a bit more power. And in this deck, it helps a bit if you can rush your opponent a bit. If you have the opportunity to rush your opponent, rush your opponent. So yeah, that's why I'm running about 11 Kritus. And the first thing that I'm going to explain is Yamishibuki. Yamishibuki is played as a 4-off. It is the best Kritu that Nubatama has next to Magatsu Storm. It's just because it is one of the only cards that actually gives you a bit of an advantage by not really having that much cost. So the first skill is continuous on Riga Circle during your turn. For each crazy row rear guard you have, this unit gains 5000 power. And that doesn't really sound much until you read the second skill, which is Vanguard or Riga Circle Auto. When this unit attacks, counter blast one and return one of your rear guards back to your hand, and then you call two evil decoy tokens. Now, evil decoy tokens are grade zeros, and you can put them on the back row because they can intercept. They have zero power. They can intercept on the back row and they cannot attack. So yeah, when you attack with this, you can go counter blast one, bounce something, and you can call two evil decoy tokens. And if Yamishibuki is on Rega Circle, that will automatically at least 19,000, and that's only counting the two tokens from the Yamishibuki itself, not the others. So it's a really nice card, not even boosting. So this is at least a 19k beat stick for a counter blast, which is practically a counter blast, which is nice, and it enables you with the Jacomeso combo that I'm going to explain later. Now I'm just going to explain Ungai. Ungai is a straightforward card. The first skill, it's a grade 2, it's an old card, this is Jira card. So the first skill is auto on Rega Circle. When your dominated unit's attack hits, you can discard one to draw one, and then you cannot use this skill until the end of turn. So if you have a Rene Vanguard, no, if you're dominate unit and you have Rene or you have Mukuro effects going on, then you have Ungai on the field, so you can have some on-hit pressure. And that's the first skill. The second skill is the card that makes Ungai, in my opinion, a really good card, regardless of your opponent. So it has it's a GB1. It's an auto skill. When this unit is placed on the Rega circle, you choose two of your rear guards, and then you choose one of your opponent's units, keyword unit, and all of them until the end of turn, all of them increase or decrease that those chosen units power to 11,000 power. So this card is very useful because it resets your opponent's power. it boosts your power most of the time. And when you call Ungai itself, you are literally making two units be able to attack with the need of your opponent spending 5k on each of them at least. So, which is nice. Also, with Jakumeso, you can restart your opponent's power in the middle of the battle phase, which is nice. And I'm going to start with the two Magatsu related cards for the Grade 2, which is the first one is the 3 of Magatsu Gale. First of all, we play this as 3 offs because it's a Magatsu. And it has two skills. The first skill is a when play Vanguard and Liga Circle. When placed, you may pay the cost, which is counter plus one and soul plus one. If you do, you draw one, and then this unit gains 6,000 power. So when you call soul blast, counter blast, draw, and its units become a 15,000 power, which is nice. And it complements with the second skill, which you're gonna use the second skill most likely, which is uh, it's an auto on regard circle only. At the end of battle, let this unit attack. You may put this unit into the soul. That's a cost. Put this unit into the soul, and then you choose one of your rear guards and put it into your hand. So it basically can empty your field and fill your hand because, in my opinion, Nubatama outside Jakumeso and your drive checks, you're not drawing cards. You're not gaining any advantage from anything. So yeah, it's just a really nice card to have as a 3 of, and it's also Magatsu, which is important for later. And then the last one is is a 2 of, which is Royal Nova. It's a relatively new card. It came from the Magatsu reverse set, which is DVS04, I think. It has two skills. The first skill is when placed on it's an auto. When placed on Vanguard or Riga Circle, you look at the top two cards, and then you choose up to one card with Magatsu, and you reveal it, put it into your hand. The rest goes to bottom of deck in any order. So yeah, it doesn't have any cost for it. So it is nice if you can get a bit of the high roll, you can get a card for free. And the second skill is nice because it's a beat stick. When auto on Riga Circle, when this unit attacks, you may give this unit 6,000 power until the end of battle. And if you do, uh, you put this at the end of the turn, you put this unit into the bottom of deck, so you're filling your deck from decking out if you really need it. But at that point, you most likely will die either way. So you mostly use it for the first skill, which is not bad. It can give you power, or you can even rush with it. It's nice. Um, Too bad it's not a Magatsu though. If it's a Magatsu, it's going to be a lot better card. But well, you can't complain. So this is the grade twos. I'm going to move on with the grade ones. I know that I'm explaining my deck, or at least showing my deck in a weird way. Grade two, grade one, and then where's the grade three? I'm going to explain the grade three shortly because it's going to complement with the grade zero and the grade four. So the grade ones, I have Sakura Fubuki playset, Katarigitsune, which is the grade 3 searcher for Nubatama, the V1, a playset. Gyokusen, a 2 off. This is promo. Um, Kokushi Garasu, 1 off, and Aogita, 1 off. I'm going to explain the grade 3 searcher first. It's a generic grade 3 searcher. When placed on Vanguard or Riga Circle, you check top 5 for a grade 3, you put into hand, and then you shuffle your deck. If you put a card from deck to hand, you discard a card. Very simple. The plus 5k for the great researcher is when during your turn, only on Riga Circle by the way. During your turn, if you have a token unit, this unit gains 5,000 power and it's a continuous skill. I'm pretty sad that it's only on Riga Circle because you have the ability to call token units at turn one, but I guess you can't really complain about it. So yeah, it's only a Riga circle. It's not like some of the other mainstream clans where it's on Vanguard and Riga circle. So yeah, that's the grade 3 sorter. You're running 4 Sakura Fubuki. This is one of the most important card, and you will 99% of the time use this as a 4 off because of the one skill. It has only one skill. It's an auto on Riga circle only. When placed, if you have 3 or more units, you discard a card and then this unit gain 3000 power. Then if your damage on hand one has one or less face up card, you draw one and then you discard one. So basically, if you have two units or more, you call Sakura Fuki, discard, and then this unit gains 3000 power. Then if your damage zone has a face up, have one or less face up card, you draw one and then you countercharge one. This is a this is in my opinion the only countercharger that's worth running other than the critical countercharger, which in my opinion that's an option that you can do, but I'm not for reasons that I'm going to explain later. So yeah, this is a very nice card. Um, it basically gives you just the resource that you need because Nubatama, you eat so much counterblast. It's not like Grand Blue when you can just call a fucking Grenache, get two countercharge until at the end of the turn. You don't have that kind of luxury. We have to discard, we have to mill our deck. And in my opinion, and there is little to no way of refilling your deck, which is just sometimes annoying because your opponent's not gonna die, even though your deck is almost empty. So yeah, there's a Kurpoki. There's Greedy Sada. I'm going to leave off Gyokusen. I'm running one Aokita. It has one skill, which is Alto on Riga Circle only. When this unit attacks or boosts, if your opponent has one or less Riga, you choose a grade two or less card in your drop zone and you put it into the soul. It's just a good soul charger. This is premium, and especially when you're playing in like tournament or something, they're probably gonna pick something up like Grand Blue or something in lines of Grand Blue, or if they're insane. Well, if they're not insane, but still, you get the idea. You're most likely gonna encounter a Grand Blue, and this is one of those cards where, oh my god, thank god your opponent's playing a deck that doesn't really leave any board around. And this is also a very good card to pair up with Mukuro, because Mukuro just basically says you board wipe your opponent uh, because of its weird card rulings of its own. So yeah, it's basically a soul touch one, but from drop zone instead from deck, and that's very helpful. And running one Gokoshigaras. It has one skill. It's an act on Riga Circle only. You can retire this unit, call two evil decoy tokens to your Riga Circle. Then, if your Vanguard is Hanzo, or your Vanguard has Ando in its card name, you can put a card. The cost is put a card from your hand into the soul, and then you search your deck for up to one card with Hanzo in its card name. You put it into your hand, and then this is a hard once per turn, so you can only use this skill once. So yeah, in the second part of the skill, the Hanzo part, you're not going to use it because this is not a Hanzo deck. I don't run any Hanzo in this deck. But the call 2 out of nowhere, that's really helpful because even though this card, Yamishibuki, calls 2, it needs a counterblast, and when you're going to see it later, even with the amount of countercharges that we have, uh, you're going to see some problems about the damage problem, especially if your opponent trying to damage control you and not give you any like a substantial amount of counterblast that you can play around. So yeah, this is a really nice card. You can run the other great one, um, which is the one where you Soul Blast to return this to hand and you call two evil decoy tokens. The problem with that I have is you sometimes lack soul, and even with Algita, you sometimes just lack soul, especially with this promo card that I'm going to show you. Um, which is why I'm going to explain it now. This is a promo card, so for you English players, you don't have access to this. I'm sorry. There's no way. There's no English one yet. This is Gyokuseng. So it has two skills. The first skill is act on drop zone. In the drop zone, when your grade 3 Vanguard is placed, counter blast 1, you may, and then you put this card from your drop zone into your hand, or you put a grade 3 card from soul and put it into your hand. If you put a card from soul to hand, you bind this unit. It's a very good card if you need, basically, if you write a grade 3 on top of a grade 3, you use Kyokuseng skill to either pick this up or break a grade 3 from drop, from soul, and then you bind Kyokuseng. The the one that helped me a lot, is actually the bind effect, where you get a grade 3 from soul because you have multiple plays. You can get grade 3 from soul, which is nice. You set up your turn, but if you force to write something like Magatsu reverse, or you have Magatsu reverse in your soul, you can get Magatsu reverse that way, which is, other than from deck or just sheer luck. You don't really have access to your Magatsu at all, which is the big downside of this deck. You don't have any control over your calls, especially during your do as yeah, you don't have really much enough options, unlike Grand Blue, Gold Paladin, Dual, stuff like that, where you can just pick up the deck or pick up the soul, and then you just call from there. You don't have that luxury. You need to place cards from your hand. That's the biggest downside of the Batama. But that's the first utilization is to pick up a grade 3 from zone and just like wait for a turn or something, or you just can play it. Or what I do a lot, which is you take a grade 3 from soul into your hand, so you automatically bind Gyokuseng, and then you discard that grade 3 immediately. So basically, and then you stride. So basically, you are counterblast. You pay the cost of one counterblast and binding Yokosen in drop zone for, and then just practically soul blasting grade 3 to stride. That helped me a lot because you're not gonna be running a lot of cards that you would want to discard anyway. And you will see why, because my trigger is a bit, unusual, for some people. But yeah, uh, and again, this is a promo card that hasn't been released in English, and so my biggest suggestion is to use Jadoneko. Jadoneko is a very powerful card. The first skill is super powerful. Continuous in soul. If you have a Magatsu Vanguard, this unit gains +2 grade. This is a great one. So you automatically have grade 3 in your soul, which is powerful. And that's, yeah. The second skill makes it really just wow. It has it's an auto on Riga circle. At the end of the battle that this unit boosted at the end of battle that this unit boosted, if you have a Magatsu Vanguard, you can put this unit into your soul, and then you choose any number of normal units in your field and then bounce it into your hand. So you have no worries, you're not gonna get bored by during your opponent's turn. You're gonna get your cards back. And this card, my god, is really helpful when you have like a Magatsu Vanguard, Magatsu Storm, normal Magatsu Storm, and you just want to wail on your opponent on the first turn. This is the card that you want. So these two cards interchangeable. It depends on what you want. So yeah, that's the great one. And this is where the fun part begins because I'm going to explain my grade 3s now. So the grade 3s in this deck. Um, is I'm running 4 Daihouzan, 2 Magatsu Storm, normal Magatsu Storm, and a place at 4 of Magatsu Storm reverses. I'm just going to start with Daihouzan first. Daihouzan is a fantastic card. You do nothing, your opponents need to discard for some reason. Your opponent don't do nothing, you can just not strike and have a bit more pressure that way. So it has two skills. Since it's Nubatama, all of these units have protect, which is nice. The first skill of Daihouzan, which is auto on Vanguard circle. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, counter plus one, soul plus one, and then you choose one of your opponent's regards, and then you bounce it. The bounce is mandatory. The choose is mandatory. But if your opponent cannot be chosen, you don't choose, or your opponent have no field, you don't. And then this unit gains 5,000 power and a drive. That is powerful. But there's another part, which is then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, and your opponent has one or less Rayguard, this unit gains 10,000 power and a crit. So basically, if you don't want to strike for some reason, you or your opponent's at grade 3 for some reason, um, you can have either a 17,000 triple drive Vanguard or a 27,000 triple drive Vanguard with two crits, powerful. And the 17,000 triple drive Vanguard does not, you don't need your opponent to have a grade 3 Vanguard. You can just do it on your first, if you're going first. And the um and then the bounce and the plus 5 can and the drive, you don't need to bounce. Doesn't say you must bounce to get this effect. No, if your opponent has nothing or you cannot choose anything, you're still gonna get a plus 5,000 power and one drive, which is nice. But it is just the icing on the top. The really meaty part is on the second skill. It's just a single sentence, but it's like Jamio Congo. Auto on Vanguard circle during your opponent's turn. When they would call a normal unit to the regal circle, if their hand is 4 or more, they discard one. So this is a really good card. Your opponent can be stuck at 3 hand. At the end of the turn, they're most likely gonna be stuck at 7 or 8 hand, which is balanced Jiangyo Congo, in my opinion, that card. But yeah, it's a much more, your opponent can still play around it, but your opponent need to think more. And yeah, having them use more than 2 brain cells is a win, in my opinion. You have Magatsu Storm, normal Magatsu Storm. I run this as a 2 off. The first skill is um, when your opponent's Vanguard attack this unit, you can counter blast one and retire 2 rear guards, and then this unit cannot be hit until the end of battle. It's just nice. It's just a PG without PG. Uh, so yeah, that's kind of it, and it's not once per turn too. So you can do it as many as you can. Your opponents fighting if playing Kagero, and they somehow don't retire your whole field for some reason. You can just use it. And the second skill, a very powerful skill, which is when your rear guard is returned to your hand, you soul blast a grade 3. You soul blast one grade 3, and then you draw one card. Call up to 3 cards from your hand to the Riga circle, and then those units gain 5,000 power. It's just really nice card. Gives you rush potential if you use Jadoneko. Yeah, it's a really nice card. You mostly use it as a Magatsu Storm and the first skill. Um, and you definitely during your turn, you're only using this for the Magatsu Storm name. So yeah, and we get to the interesting ones. I'm running 4 Magatsu reverses. It's a really good card. Magatsu Storm reverse. So it has 2 skills. The first skill is an auto skill. When this unit is placed by the skill of your Vanguard with Magatsu in its card name, It's a handful, but trust me. You lock all of your rear guards without Magatsu in its card name. Then all of your units gains 5000 power. Then if your opponent's great or greater, you counterblast one and discard two cards. And then discard performs drive checks when this unit attacks until the end of turn. That is powerful as shit because you can proc so many things in premium that it's actually not that bad. It's just a really nice attacker. Because I'm going to show you my triggers later, but that's the first skill, which is nice. You can get a lot more or a lot less, just depends on your luck, but mostly a lot more. That's the first skill. The second skill is when this unit is retired during your opponent's turn, you soul blast one. You put this card into your hand, and then your opponent discard one. So with this card, you basically scream at your opponent, "Don't touch this thing! Don't retire this thing!" And you'll be fine, or you don't need to discard it, because the discard one doesn't say your opponent needs to have four or more cards in hand. They just discard, which is not bad. And displays nice with Magatsu Storm first skill. So you have like one or two of these on the field. Use Magatsu Storm skill, counter plus one, retire one of you retire rear guard. If the triggers Magatsu reverse, you can use Magatsu reverse skill because it's technically retired in your opponent's turn. And yeah, that's a grade 3. And I'm going to show you the triggers. The triggers make this deck, honestly. One of the best like weird things with Magatsu reverse in my opinion. So I'm running 4 heals. One is the resource heals, 3 is the grade 3 heal guardians. Um, and then 4 draw PGs, 3 of the premium collection 2019 crits, or what I call the soul crits, the GB1 soul crits, 2 of the premium collection 2020 crits, or the crit strides, stride fodders, Dragon Empire over trigger, 2 stand triggers, and starter. I'm going to skip the starter. It's just straightforward. It's a starter. It's the best starter. V starter are the best starter in premium, hands down. Hell, even whole Vanguard, so busted. And I'm going to start with the crits because this is the least important part of the build of the deck. I'm running 2 crit strike fodders and I'm running 2 crit souls. The reason why I run this much crit is because I don't give a shit about crits, because of a dumb thing that you can do, because you're running stand triggers. You can get one more attack, and in my opinion, one more attack is more fun, and I want to have more interaction in my game, so I run less crits. So I'm running 2 crit strides, which in a lot of people fucking insane. Why would you run 2? Because I want to run 2 stands. That's it. That's the whole reason why. It's a nice card. Also, you're running 10 grade 3s, and you either ride Magatsu and discard the Daihouzans, or you ride Daihouzans and then you discard the rest of your discard some Magatsus, and then you ride into Magatsu, and your Daihouzan now becomes Strikeholder. So yeah, Strikeholder is not really important in my opinion with this deck. It's still important in this deck, but it's not as important as the other cards. So the crit soul, you're going to eat soul, and giving your Vanguard 10,000 power and letting you draw one is nice. So yeah, that's the crit stride fodder. I'm going to start now with the heals. The heals, I have mixed feelings about it. I have mixed feelings about the grade 3 more specifically, because A, it's a grade 3. You can search for it, but it's still a grade 3 if you only have that thing in your hand. Good fucking luck. You won't, because you're not gonna ride it most likely. So yeah, it has the plus 10k, the plus 10k to your Vanguard. You're most likely gonna use that. And then the give yourself 1 damage, but you're not actually proccing it. That effect is actually not going to be used that much because your opponent know that you're playing Nubatama. Rushing you is the best option that they have. That's the whole weakness of Nubatama, being rushed, and especially with again something like Tachikaze, which is arguably A tier, and Grand Loop, which is arguably S tier. Also Luard, which is arguably S tier. Nightmare Doll, arguably A or S tier. A lot of the good Kurun meta decks use you can be rushed so hard so fast, and without any cards that can draw or call from deck, you're kind of fucked either way. So yeah, I have mixed feelings about this card. It prevents you from getting rushed, but it also fucks you a bit because it's only a 15 key shield. But and yeah, the second one is the single heal, which is the resource heal. You're gonna eat soul, but you're mostly use it for the counter charge. It's just really nice to have a face up. We to have a count to have two face up or three or even just one. It's just really nice. Um, it just gives you resource, which is you really need resource in this deck. So yeah. That's the heal triggers. I'm going to start now with the draw triggers. The draw PGs mandatory. Basically, you need four of it. It's draw triggers. This is one of the, ironically, one of the more reliable way that you could draw in in Nubatama. So depressing to think of it, but this is the only way that they realistically get a bit more cards in their hand. So yeah, draw PGs, and pretty much self-explanatory. Over trigger. I don't know why why they printed over trigger. It's a stupid card, especially with this because you stand the Vanguard, and with the card that you combo this deck with, that Vanguard's not has the skill that is not once per turn, and it's an on attack skill, so you can have twice the effects. So yeah, really dumb card, mandatory one of. Two stands. I'm running the handful. I'm running the ones where the after image ones. The after image one, you bounce something. If you bounce something in your opponent, if you bounce something from your opponent and you have six, or at the end of the turn if you have six or like cards in hand, you bounce this into back into your hand. So yeah, it just feels a bit on your hand, but you don't use it for the first skill. You use it for the second skill, which is GB1. When this unit an auto, when this unit is placed on the Riga circle, if you have less cards than your opponent, you draw one. You put this card into the top of your deck and you shuffle it. Choose one of your units, gain 3000 power. Just really nice card, a really solid card. And it's a stand trigger too because yeah, stand triggers actually doesn't really do anything back the energy, but now since the power of rearguard somehow hitting more than a vanguard, pretty much easily, you can abuse the heck out of stand triggers. In my opinion, stand triggers are fine, the effects are fine. It's just the fact that rearguards have so much power. That's the only problem that gives stand trigger the it's really annoying feel that you play against because oh no, the one attack that they have, oh shit, I gotta recalculate for that. So yeah, it's you can put your stand triggers back into your deck because it's not that bad. The skill of the stand triggers is actually really useful. And yeah, and I'm going to go with the G zone. I'm going to start with G Guardians first because it's the less I need to explain less. I run two gun wait, what is this? Gando Kurakan. Two Gando Kurakan, one Gehorakan. one Zakishime, and one Dismal. The Gendo your opponent, when this unit is placed on the Guardian Circle, if your opponent has three or more cards in hand, this unit gains 5,000 shield. Then, if your opponent has has six or more cards, this unit gains 10,000 power. It's 99% of the time, it's a 30,000 shield. Nice. It's not scaling though, which is Nubatama has also have a problem where their G guardians are not scaling at all. So you have that problem, which is why I'm just hoping the new premium collection gives a scaling G guard, like something a call from hand or something. And then we have the other grade for the double rare one, which is the Gandokurak, which is the Georakan. Maybe. So the condition that is placed on the Guardian Circle, control plus one, soul plus one. You dominate a great one rear guard and a back row, and then you put in the Guardian Circle. Um, it's you run this as a one-off to disrupt your opponent's combo pieces. That's all. Like if they play messiahs, you can play this to get one of those grade one messiahs out. If your opponent is playing big belly, you can take out one of your opponent's three standing pieces by grabbing their booster from their crayon tiger. And you can fuck up sanctuary guard dragon so hard with this. It's super funny. um Oh yeah, it's not scaling, which is bad, and you can't really use any of the skill. Doesn't get any shield too, and and it's basically just a 25k shield for counter plus one and soul plus one. It's not that good. And then I run Zakishime. It's the G Guardian flip. So when this unit is placed on the Guardian Circle, GB1, you flip a G Guard, and then your opponent may discard a card. If they don't, this unit gains 20,000 shield. It's just an annoying card that your opponent has to think of. If your opponent has nothing, oh look, a 35k shield came out of nowhere. Yeah, just a really annoying card. It's not that annoying. It's not scaling too, in my opinion. It doesn't scale enough, especially against the more decent decks. And then you have this one, and then no, I run this one. It's basically to protect your Magatsu Storm reverses from being touched. That's it. Since I'm not running any Honoli, that's why I run it as a one-off. But if I do run Honoli, I run this maybe as a like at least a one-off, if not a two-off, depending on the circumstances. So yeah, it's just a really nice card. Gives it resist, gives it sentinel, stuff like that. And this unit has innate resist too, which is nice. So that's the G guards. And then I'm going to start with the strides, which is I think in my opinion the longest part of this video maybe. We'll see. But I'm running two Jakumeso, one Mujin Lord Dagoku, one Gilgal, four Ine, two Mukuro, and one of the GB8s. I'm going to start with the GB8. Uh, since uh, since Nubatama lost Jamio Congo, uh, the Atagalord and Drachma basically became little to no use. Basically, the both cards are the complete dog shit. So yeah, that's why I don't run Drachma anymore, because this is just a basically better. This is just a better card out of all of it. Maybe it's, yes, it is a GB8, but you're playing Nubatama, and at least you're gonna have like five, six face up, seven, and then it's not bad because you can just go to GB8 that way. So yeah, this is the GB8. It's a really nice card, a really powerful one. So yeah, I forgot to say the explain the skill. GB8. When your opponent's it's an auto. When your opponent places a guardian a card to the guardian circle, you may counter blast one or soul blast one. If you do, your opponent discard two cards. Doesn't matter how much they call for each things that they. It doesn't matter how much they place, or hell even put, because the card says when your opponent puts. So it includes intercept. So they need to discard two either way if you pay the cost of Soul Blast one or Counter Blast one, which is powerful. And it's my opinion a decent finisher. It's a way better finisher than Drachna and Atagalor because both of those cards are dog shit now. And I have two Mukuros. It has one skill which is an auto dominate skill. Auto on Vanguard Circle once per turn. GB2. Use Oblast to discard a card and then flip a card in your G zone and turn it face up. Um, you dominate all of your opponent's vanguards, you stand them, and then you attack all of their rear guards with that vanguard. So this bypasses any resist. Any like this card cannot be chosen or this card cannot be yeah, this card cannot be chosen because Mukuro doesn't choose. It just dominate all of your opponent's vanguard. And yeah, it's just a powerful card, really nice card. It draws you a card. It does drive checks too, so if you need the drive checks for some reason, so yeah. And then this is a really good card for board wipe. I run two of them because there's no reason to not run two. I mean, there's a reason if you don't want to run three Jacome, so I'll explain it later. But yeah, I run two because my opponent in my locals, my opponent loves their board, and it would be very a shame if I, you know, screw their board by having them hit themselves. So yeah, Mokoro, nice card, nice board wipe. Oh my god, Rine, Shirato Rine. I have little to no words about this card. This card is super good. It has two skills. Both the first skill is a dominate skill. Act on Vanguard only the once per turn. You counter plus one and flip uh, face up card in flip a card in your G zone with the same card name as your Vanguard and then turn it face up. Your opponent chooses two cards from their hand, call it, and those unit gain, and those cards gain 5,000 power. Then your opponent, then you dominate them. You don't choose, you dominate them, and then you attack the Vanguard, attack your opponent's Vanguard with them. Your opponent, and then this also has the skill. Your opponent may not use any auto ability for this call. Um, so they basically minus two out of nowhere. Not bad. But it's not the first skill that's devastating. Well, yes it is, but it's not as much as the second skill. The second skill makes this card super nice, super bonkers. Which is Count on Vanguard Circle. It's a GB3, but the skill is all dominated unit gains 10,000 power and 1 crit. So yeah, you use Rene skill, you have GB3, your opponent units that they call from the two cards because Rene skill, they now have plus 15k plus 1 crit. Super powerful, definitely kill your opponents. And since you can use your opponent's trigger skills if it's dominated and you can fulfill the requirements, it's a really nice card to have, and that's why you run it as a 4. Personally, I don't go to Rene that much because it's so fucking boring. That's why I don't run any Mizukaze, the God Restrict for Nubatama, the best one, because it's so boring. Like, you can go to Mizukaze, Rine, kill your opponent really, really fast. And yes, you can do that, but yes, it's very, very boring. And yeah, I just don't like it. I just don't like Mizukaze Rine combo. Just boring. That's why I run this as 4 off, and most of the time I just flip them without even using their skill because of flip fodder. So yeah, that's a really boring card. With a really interesting skill, but overall it's just a boring card to play with and play against because especially if you play it in the GRL, people hate that card. So I have Gilgal, the progenitor. Um, as a progenitor, if you have this face up, you cannot flip this card face up from face down from abilities, and when this card is face up, you can strive for free. Yeah, that's a skill of the well, of the skills for the progenitors, but this is an additional skill for this one. Act on Vanguard Circle, Counter Blast 2, Soul Blast 1. When this unit attacks, this unit attacks all of your opponent's regards at the same time. Then this unit gains 10,000 power, and it gains the skill Auto on Vanguard Circle. When this unit attack hits, you Counter Blast 1. This is not a once per turn. Some people think that this is a once per turn and you can use this skill only once per turn. It is not. It's stupid. It's funny. And yeah, I sometimes do a really dumb play. Counter Blast 4, Soul Blast 2, hit, Counter Blast like 7, no, not 7, Counter Blast 10 for some, Counter Charge 10. So nice. So yeah, it's a plus 15. Yeah, it's a board wipe. So I have three board wipes in this deck. So yeah, just a really nice card to have if you have the option to go to. And probably Gilgal is the Gilgal. This card with Nubatama, I think it has the best pairing out of all of the Dragon Empire, other than Dragon Empire cards, because this is not a bad card. You need the board wipe in this deck with Nubatama, and other decks can achieve it, you know, easier than Nubatama. And I have Dagoku. Uh, this card is funny. That's the only word that I can say. This card is just funny. So it has the skill Dominate an act. Vanguard Circle is a once per turn. Counterblast one. Flip a card in your G zone face up from face down, and then your opponent calls two cards from their G zone with power to Vanguard Circle. Your opponent may not use any auto abilities for this call. Then they attack your opponent's Vanguard in your order of your choice. Then when the dominated unit attacks, which is the two strides, you can use any auto abilities of that unit as if it were on Vanguard. Super funny because you can somehow get GB5 out of nowhere and have two more heals and then Gigar, and then go to the Gigar flipper. You have GB8 or just straight up GB7 if you don't use G, uh, the Gigar flipper, and then you can go to GB8 fast. So I think it's it's a really funny card. It's not good most of the time because most strides they they have the benefit of a lot of them having either on place of X or there are act abilities. So yeah, really nice card. Really good feeling to use if you can pull it that off. GB5. And the last card, GG Zone, and the most important one in my opinion because I want interactive gameplay, which is Jokmeso. It has only one skill, which is when this unit attacks, you retire two Great Zero rear guards, and then you flip card in your G zone base up. You draw two cards, you bounce all of your rear guards back into your hand, and then you call up to two from your hand to the regal circle. If you call two, your Vanguard, this unit gains 10k in upgrade until the end of turn. Keyword, this unit gains the crit 10,000 power and plus 1 crit until the end of turn. So if you pull the over trigger, you can do it all over again with 3 crits this time. If you can get it token mark, if you can the 2 crit heroes. Now this card has a really good synergy. Yeah, it has synergy with Gyokuseng, which is the promo, and which is why I can't live with this promo. I can't live without this promo. And it has synergy with Magatsu Reverse if your Vanguard has Magatsu in its card name, either it be normal Magatsu, normal Magatsu Reverse. So yeah, so Since you can do drive checks with Magatsu reverse, no, before that, since you call Magatsu reverse from Jakumeso, and if your Jakumeso have and your hard skill is a Magatsu unit, you can use Magatsu reverse skill to get the drive checks. Your drive checks can be either the stand trigger or preferably the over trigger. Getting the over trigger on your drive check is still counted as drive check because the over trigger doesn't count if it's off Vanguard or not. So you still stand your Vanguard. And if you drive check a stand trigger, you just stand Magatsu again. You still do if you check stand on the if you check stand on the first check, you still can do the second drive, but on the next attack you can't use the drive you can't do drive check anymore with that unit. So if you get the over trigger, stun your Vanguard, and then you get the stun trigger, stun Magatsu, do it all over again. um and then stun Vanguard, so you can have up to a total of 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. No, 9 10, yeah. You can have up to all of 10 attacks. It needs for counterblast at least, which is the bad part. The good part, if you can pull it off, you're a legend. So yeah. Uh, Also, this doesn't really work if you don't have a Gyokusen. The reason is, yeah, Mishibuki is not a Magatsu, so you're gonna get locked by Magatsu reverse. And the way that they designed Magatsu reverse is you can use, so when you put Yokusang from hand, it's technically still on, the skill is still on standby. You still follow Jakumetsu skill, and then you call two, you call a Magatsu reverse and something else. You use Magatsu reverse skill first because unlike magic, you can choose which skill goes first, and then Gyokusang skill is still on standby. You lock all of your non-Magatsu units. You if you have And then all of your units gain 5000 power. If you call another Magatsu reverse, do that all over again. And then you use Gyokusang skill, which Soul Blast 1 called 2 Evil Decoy token, so you basically bypass the lock, which is nice. And you since you have 2 Evil Decoy tokens, if you draft check a over trigger, you can use Jakumetsu skill again, which is nice. So yeah, this is my Magatsu and Daihouzan and Magatsu deck profile, deck hybrid. It's super interesting. Uh, I based it I'm trying to build this for a long time, and I just have the time to make this video about right now. Like maybe if I post this, it's maybe about like a week after I recorded this. So yeah, I may have some tweaks, but shouldn't really have that much tweaks because unless the new ban list came out and just completely nukes this deck, but I don't really think that they're gonna touch Nubatama. Nubatama is on the really, it's not on the best position right now. It's, in my opinion, C tier 3, um, which is, I wouldn't say good, but I also wouldn't say bad. So yeah. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe, stuff like that, the YouTuber stuff, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.